Hola, muchas gracias por estar nuevamente con nosotros. Nos encontramos el día de hoy con Sara y con Heather de dos escuelas de inglés en Canadá. Y el día de hoy vamos a platicar por qué tantos mexicanos no fácilmente tienen el nivel C1 requerido para estudiar educación superior en inglés. Hi, Heather. Hello, Sarah. Thank you so much for being with us today. Can you please introduce yourselves?
Sure. So my name is Heather. I am the academic and pathway manager at Spratshaw Language College in Toronto. I have also been an English teacher for many, many years. So hopefully I can share some advice on this topic.
Of course you can. Thank you so much for being here. Sarah, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sarah. I'm the academic director for language programs at the Canadian College of English Language in Vancouver. I've been a teacher for about 9 years. I taught in Vancouver and also in Mexico for a while. Then I was back in the UK for a while, and now I'm here in Vancouver.
So we have lots of experience here with these two teachers who accepted to chat with us today on a topic that really started recalling my attention one time when I tried to enroll my students in college. And most of them, I would say around 95% of them, did not have the required English level. So I talked to somebody at the school and they said, you know what, I know how you feel, but the truth is that not many students in Latin America and not many students in Mexico have a C1 level of English or B2, not even B2. So they usually have to take general English classes or academic English classes before being able to go to higher education. And I look back at the students who aspire to go to Canada to a diploma or a bachelor's degree, and I said, that's right, okay? That is totally true. And I started looking a little bit into our school system to see why this is. And I have 3 theories that I would like to discuss with you today. But I will also like to ask you from your perspective, what it is that you see with our beloved Mexican students and what tips we can give them, or how can they realize that what are the skills that they will learn in this kind of higher level courses, English courses, okay? So for starters, I would like you to tell me a little bit about what C1 is, okay? Because not many people are familiarized with it. So what does C1 mean, Heather?
Yes, so C1 is part of the structure of English languages. Basically, it is called the Common European Framework of Reference, and certain skill levels, certain abilities are divided into different levels from A, A1, A2, B, B1, B2, C1, C2, and that is a shared framework between language schools. It's recognized around the world, and basically, if you are learning English in Mexico or in Canada, or in Australia, wherever, it's all going to be the same skills that you're learning within that level. So C1 is definitely on the high end of that, and a lot of students do kind of reach a plateau when they arrive at C1 or before C1. So this is probably the main point we're going to discuss today.
Wow, that's a different point from the 3 that I have, so that's really interesting. That's totally true. Okay, yeah, so C1 means advanced, right? And we have very specific skills that a student who pretends to go to college or to do a bachelor's degree in an English-speaking country should have, that the C1 level talks about, okay? What would be these skills, Sarah, if you can share something with us?
Yeah, so C1 is interesting because when you're at the top of the B level, you can pretty much function in fairly competently and independently in most situations. However, C1 is like elevating that understanding a little bit. So it's understanding more of the nuances of the language, more of that socio-linguistic knowledge. So being able to adjust what you're saying and how you're saying it for the specific situation.
Okay, so
similarly to a native speaker, right? So yeah, students at that level, they need to be able to recognize the context that they are communicating in and adjust for that context. That's like the number one skill that I would say.
Native-like. It's a native-like level.
I don't really, yeah, kind of. I don't like to say native-like because I think that's an unrealistic goal, but competent and easily competent with the language in all different situations and appropriately.
I love that.
Yeah, they're not just using English as a tool.
As a tool, exactly. Would you say that all Canadians have a C1 level of English? Heather?
No.
No.
I would not say that.
And why is that? If you can explain to the public so they better understand what C1 means.
Sure. Yeah, like Sarah said, C1 is kind of pushing beyond the basic functionality of English to communicate your message. And it means that you can include some subtext or understand the context of the situation and how you should approach what you're saying or what you're writing, and maybe the underlying meaning of the words or the sentences or the structure that you're choosing to use. So it's not just words as they are, it's got a lot more going on with it. So I would say that a lot of native English speakers are not able to do that or not able to do that in certain situations. If you grow up in Canada, high school, you should be proficient with English, but it doesn't mean that you're able to articulate yourself in speaking or in writing the way that maybe you should or that you want to. It might not always come off the way that you intend. So I would say that C1 is being able to articulate exactly what you want to say without any misunderstanding in maybe word choice or sentence structure.
So this is very important because I would like our public to understand that if someone who was born and raised in Canada and finished high school in Canada sometimes does not have a C1 level, okay, it is completely normal for us who are Mexicans or from Latin America who speak English as a second language not to have a C1 level. It requires training and it requires lots of study and dedication. Do you agree with me, Sarah?
I 100% agree with you, yeah.
Right. So here's my 3 theories, okay, on why Mexican students do not achieve C1 being in Mexico, okay? The first one, I hope this does not shock you as much as it did to me, okay? But I did a research on what grade Mexican students learn to write an essay, and guess at what level they teach us that.
I'm gonna say from your introduction there, probably quite late.
Late. Mm-hmm.
Maybe 10th grade, 11?
10th grade or 11. Sarah, what do you say?
Ninth, I'm going to be more optimistic.
Okay, so 9th grade is late for you, okay? The answer is never. Oh. Never. We are not taught how to organize our ideas in writing. And that was kind of sad for me because I love reading, I enjoy writing, and I would like students and people in general to find that pleasure on writing and on sharing their opinion. And it's something that our school system, I hope I am wrong, in all of the curricula that I saw, that I looked into, writing essays was not there, was not aimed at any level up until high school, okay? So do you think this is one of the reasons why Mexican students do not easily achieve C1, and why? Elaborate on that, like English teacher always say. Do you think this has something to do?
If a student is intending to take a language exam, this would be a huge problem for them if they have not had experience writing essays or even learning essays, or I'm assuming in the education system they are reading at least, so they have seen it and maybe have self-recognized, okay, this is the introduction, these are the main points, and this is the conclusion. But for official language exams, this is a really critical part. So they would not be able to achieve that, certainly, in any capacity.
Yes. Why being able to write?
Yeah, I would agree. Like not having that foundational knowledge. Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, continue. That foundation knowledge.
Yeah, not having that foundational knowledge even in their first language, like that's going to present so many problems when trying to apply that in a second language.
Yes.
And yeah, that makes, you've just made, that's like a light bulb as to why am I this problem.
Yes, I sometimes, or very often.
It's quite difficult for language teachers to, it's quite difficult for language teachers in an ESL classroom to teach essay writing, because they would have to teach essay writing and also teach English and also teach academic English.
Yeah, they would have to go back, right?
Right. So students who, it's like trying to write, but you don't know the alphabet.
Exactly. Very often, my students, when I used to teach, they would tell me, I find it so hard to write in English, and so English is hard. And I tell them, you know what? It is really not the language, is how to organize your ideas that's representing or giving you trouble right now, okay? So we usually had to go back for them to learn to do that. And that's really writing. It's not just knowing the words or their spelling, right? It's about how to organize your ideas and express them in a clear way. So you agree with me that this is a main reason why Mexican students sometimes do not achieve C1 easily. Okay. So I was right on that one. The second one, I think, is
absolutely,
where we are situated on the map, okay? Because all of Latin America, well, most of Latin America speaks Spanish, and then we have the Pacific on one side, the Pacific Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. And well, our north border, it's not really easy, you know, for us to just go shopping any given day and practice the language. Do you think us being kind of isolated in Spanish in one language is one of the reasons why we don't easily achieve C1 level? And can you please elaborate on that? Why would you tell our public that immersion is important and, you know, just being exposed to the language, what role it plays?
Yeah. I think for students from any country, not just students in Mexico, you can never really fully know your ability until you are in an immersion environment. So when you visit an English-speaking country, or if you attend a school like a university that only has courses in English, you will find a totally different ability than what you thought you may have had. So even students who may reach C1 in Mexico, when they come to Canada and they should live in English and go out in English and speak with their friends in English and study, in English, it's a totally different kind of skill than only having academic English or English in the classroom. So it's a big shock, I think, for a lot of people to realize, like, okay, so even if I have C1 or B2, or, you know, high IELTS score or very high level of English, when you actually go there, it opens your eyes a little bit to realize just how much you don't know. Yeah.
Now, Sarah, you lived in Mexico. What do you think about this? How immersion help us really, you know, advance in our English as a second language learning process?
Yeah, so when I lived and taught in Mexico, I would see the same students. Most of them I saw for maybe an hour or 2 hours every day. So we're talking about students that did have access to private English learning opportunities. And I know that's not most people in Mexico, but that's my experience. But what I saw was that outside of the classroom, they weren't really using English in any way. So that hour or 2 hours was with me was all the exposure they were getting. Obviously, in Mexico, there is a lot of American influence, particularly like popular culture, movies, TV, music. So they are exposed in some ways, but the contexts are really limited, right? So if we take that back to what characterizes C1, which is being able to understand in all different contexts and communicate in all different contexts, they haven't had that exposure that they would get when they come to Canada of all of those different contexts. So how can we expect them to be competent if they've not had opportunities to practice?
Exactly. The opportunity to practice, the exposure to languages. There was a point when I told them, you know what, I will stop saying do your homework, just expose yourselves to the language. That's the idea, right? They need lots of hours of exposure. And when they are studying English in an English speaking country, they do not only learn in the classroom, but outside the classroom, they are exposed to the language all of the time, right? So they do need to use it. They listen to it all of the time, and that is why immersion is so so useful when learning English, right? Or any other language. Then my third theory is the framework, the European framework, is not very widely used in Mexico yet. Okay, not only by the students but also by teachers. Okay, teachers sometimes just follow some book or some series of books or some what do you call courses, but sometimes those courses are aimed for a student to reach just B2 or A2, right? And that is why I would like the public to know that what they need is, you know, if they pretend to go to Canada or to the US or to the UK and study higher education, they need to reach C1. But when they pay for classes in Mexico, when they attend English schools, they need to ask what the level the highest level they can achieve with them is, right? So I would like you to tell me if you think there not being awareness of the European framework is a third reason why students do not achieve C1, and why they have to ask schools if they, you know, if they can reach up to C1 with them or B2, which is totally fine. But sometimes students say, okay, I need English. So here's English, right? And there's a whole lot of things going on in skills in hours, right, for them to acquire and to learn. So if the European framework in Mexico is not being used, how do you think this this represents a cause why they do not achieve C1, which is pretty obvious, but I'd like you to hear it from you. Am I right?
I
think I think, as you said, if they're not using any frame of reference for designing courses, that there's no way to determine what is fluent, their skills to that level. So as you said, it's important for them to ask, and it's also important for them to join. I know.
Oh no.
We lost her. Don't worry, I'll ask
That's okay.
production too.
So I guess I would say, I don't know that it's important that they explicitly know what A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2 means, what those letters and numbers mean. But they do need to understand what the expectations are and what they need to be able to do at that level.
Exactly.
Because students do often have a unrealistic idea of what's going to be expected of them at university.
Exactly. Sometimes students tell me, you know, I work in an English speaking environment. I send lots of emails every day and I understand them as I receive them. So I should be able to go to college or to do a master's degree in an English speaking country. And sometimes this is not the case, right? And we have Sarah back. And I tell them, look, it's like if you need, I don't know, hiking, clothes to go hiking or a wedding dress and doing a Google search for clothes, right? You need, you need to know specifically what you want. Maybe know what you need, but at least what you want. And being willing to do what it takes to reach that level, right? So those are my 3 theories. Sarah, can you hear us?
Heather,
sorry, Heather, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm back now.
Great. So those are my 3 theories. One is that we're not being taught to write essays, and not even in high school, okay? My second theory is that we're not very exposed to the language in Latin America. And the third point, or my theory, is that the European framework is not widely used, right? So as Sarah said, sometimes we have this expectation that's really high and we pay for classes. But I was telling Sarah, is like you need clothes to go hiking and somebody else needs a dress for a wedding, and both of them Google searching for clothes, right? You need to know what it takes and what you need in order to advance. Now, from your perspective, I would like to hear what your opinion is, because you get to see our students in your classrooms every day. You get the reports from their teachers. So Heather, you said something about reaching plateau. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, I've noticed from all of my students, regardless of which country they're from or which country they're studying in, if it's in Canada or in a country where I was teaching abroad, after B2, there's kind of a plateau. After B2, all of the grammar knowledge, you have a large dictionary of vocabulary that you know, you can understand everything that you hear and you can function well in English, but it's really hard for students to push themselves beyond just understanding and using English as a tool to actually communicating in this, as we said, native-like, but not native-like if we don't want to use that word, to be able to have context and subtext and all of this, and to be able to use it proficiently. it's even if you're studying at a C1 level, it doesn't mean that you're using English at a C1 level. And it really takes a lot of work from the student, from the teacher to push themselves to express their ideas that way.
Yeah, like me, I'm struggling right now because I never interviewed anyone in English before. I'm struggling to be myself in English in a second language, right? Yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort and willingness to go across and get rid of that. What do you call it? So yeah, I'm struggling right now. To leave plateau behind, would you say it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
To keep going up.
Keep going up. Yeah. Sarah, do you have any other theories or opinions on why Mexican students sometimes do not have C1?
Yeah, I mean, like Heather, I think it's important to acknowledge that it's not something that's unique to Mexican students, right? It's actually achieving C1 is difficult for most English learners. One piece of research that I've looked at recently and something we've been trying to act upon here is like this misinterpretation of the levels and how long it takes to progress from one level to another. And so progressing from A1 to A2 is quite relatively quick, but then A2 to B1 takes almost twice as long, and then B1 to B2 twice as long again. But students and textbooks tend to expect that each level will take the same amount of time. And that can contribute to that feeling of plateau that Heather was talking about, because the progress as you get higher and higher becomes so much more like granular, and it's slow. It feels slower because it's not like this. Your progress is this rather than this. I don't know if I'm being very eloquent in how I'm explaining that.
I think it's definitely true.
So one thing that we're trying to do is to kind of adjust our internal levels of our classes to give students a more realistic amount of time to make progress and see progress, so that they don't feel that demotivation that comes when you hit that plateau. Okay. So to build that into our curriculum a little bit more.
Great. What tips would you give students from Latin America, from your experience, if they want to achieve a C, or if they need to achieve a C1 level? What would be your tips for them?
For like academic purposes?
Yes.
Read a lot. And read lots of different types of sources. So read academic articles, read essays, read magazines, read books, right? And try to notice the differences in the language that's used. Listening to is just a little bit harder, I guess, to expose yourself to the different types of audio situations than it is with written. So that would be my #1 tip.
Yeah, so lots of exposure to language that's written or that you can hear, right? Okay, Heather, what tips would you give students?
I would say to add on to what Sarah said, being able to produce language at that level is also important. So exposing yourself, but also when you listen to something, when you read something, to be able to speak or write about it and share your opinion. That's another skill that students need to make the effort to incorporate into their studies. A lot of students, I find, have a really good understanding on paper. They can understand what they hear, what they read very well, but then when they need to speak about it or make a presentation or write an essay, the skill level is a little bit different than just comprehension. So this is another tip I would say, is not just taking English in, but also producing it. And also try not to get demotivated if you find yourself making these very small progressions. It can be demotivating, you know, like you can study for a month and you feel like you have not improved, but because the improvement is so small and it's more a broader skill that is developing instead of individual abilities that you're gaining. So just something about motivation I think is important for the students, is keep pushing yourself and recognize how progress works at that higher level.
Right. Thank you. One thing I forgot to ask you when we were talking about the essay writing is, how is essay writing or academic writing in general used in university or college? Because sometimes in Mexico, we don't use it either. We're just expected to know information, and our exams are really nothing like the exams in the US and Canada. Okay, so I would like you to tell our Mexican public why writing and being able to organize their ideas on paper is important in higher education. Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, it varies from institution to institution and course to course, but essay writing is one of the main forms of assessment. I went to university in the UK, if you can't tell by my accent, and I did an arts degree, a Bachelor of Arts, and almost all of my assessment was essay writing. Even in exam situations, it was writing an essay in an exam. So it is extremely important. That is how you're going to be assessed. So
that is how you're going to be assessed. That is super, super relevant. Heather.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I also have a Bachelor of Arts, but from Canada. And yeah, within the program that you study, even if it is like a science program or math or engineering, you will still have to write essays. And it's a really useful tool for the instructors to be able to recognize, okay, this student has done some research, they understood what the theories are, and they're able to explain that in their own words. So that I think is a better representation of knowledge than being able to complete multiple choice exams or any other assessment method. And that really is the way that colleges and universities are working in Canada.
Exactly. So that is the reason why essay writing is so important and so relevant for everybody who aspires to go to college or university in Canada, right? That is why they have to know it. Okay, well, I really appreciate you taking your time to be with us and talk to the Latin American public a little bit about what it takes, what it means to reach a C1. And I hope they understand that it requires lots of effort, that it is possible, okay, but that it's not easily achievable, right? So I thank you one more time for being with us. And if you have something else that you consider important that I should tell students in Mexico or our clients in our agency, what would that be? Is there anything that I am missing that you would like to say?
I would say for those students, keep working and keep a goal in mind, and make sure that you have the steps in place to reach that goal. So whether it's studying in Mexico or studying in Canada, studying online, make sure that you prepare yourself for what you're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Sarah, is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I guess my other piece of advice that I always gave to my EAP students was to really take advantage of the feedback that you get. And this I learned from personal experience where I didn't want to read the feedback in case it was negative. But yeah, read all the feedback that you get from your instructors and make changes according to it. And you will make progress a lot quicker.
That is so true. Well, thank you so much again for being with us today. And we look forward to send you our beloved Mexican students to your classroom soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.